Today's episode of The Walk Show is brought to you in part by Jam Spots. Established in 1989, that's over 30 years, Jam Spots has provided safe and accessible spaces for musicians to create and collaborate. They have hourly, weekly, and monthly rentals to suit your needs. And here's the thing, these rooms rent out at artist-friendly rates. Cause let's face it, we can't all be John Bon Jovi. The best part about Jam Spots is its rich history in the Guelph music scene. It truly is a big part of the local scene and even has a music community within itself. And I should know, almost every band I've ever been a part of has had a room with Jam Spots. That's a ton of rehearsals, photo shoots, and even a music video we shot there with A Rise and Ruin. If you're looking for a space within our music community, check out jamspots.com. That's JAMSPOTS.com. Jam Spots. Make some noise! Howdy, folks. Welcome to The Walk Show, podcasting on all major platforms and broadcasting on Hypernova Radio. Thank you for listening. Be sure to follow the show on Facebook, Instagram, X, and Blue Sky. And if you want to support the show with your dollars, you can subscribe over on Patreon for only $5 a month. I'm Derek Prince-Cox, and I hope you're keeping well. It's been another good week here. We celebrated my wife Mackenzie's birthday by checking out Ward 1 Smokehouse, just north of Guelph. And we hadn't been there yet, but man, it was worth the wait. Some of the best brisket and pulled pork I've ever had. We also got to see some old friends afterwards. She stayed out, but when I don't have a gig, I turn into a pumpkin around 10 or 11, so I just went back to the house and hung out with Otis. He needed some pets. I gotta say, if you're in the Tri-City area, or you don't mind making the drive for some top-tier smoked barbecue, check out Ward 1 Smokehouse. And if anyone from Ward 1 is listening, if you want to advertise on the show, I will work for food. Anyway, I'm putting this episode out, then packing up my PA to do a sound gig in Waterloo for the long weekend band crawl. It's gonna be fun. 5 venues, 18 bands. If you're in the area and you don't have tickets yet, check out ticketscene.ca and come hang out. I reached out to you on the Walk Show socials to ask you what you're looking forward to the most this summer. And here's what you had to say.
Now it's time to check that mail. I'm gonna check that mail good. Yeah, check that mail.
From Barrett Cressman. Hey, dude. Barrett says, looking forward to taking my son to his first Jays game this weekend. Also, water slide season, and I can't wait to help raise some money for Kiwanis on June 14th at Witchcraft. Very cool. From He Said, She Said, howdy. They say, our band's outdoor shows, we love playing live, but something about an outdoor concert and the vibe it brings. Yeah, there's definitely something there. From Will Noseworthy of Band Boost. Hey, brother. Will says, the sun. All great answers. As for me, there are a bunch of great gigs coming up, and I am excited for them. But if I'm being honest, I'm mostly excited about hanging out in some water in the sun with my wife. I don't really care where. It just needs to happen. It was one of the worst winters I can remember, so we've earned this summer, my friends. Let's make the most of it. Thank you all for your participation. If you aren't writing in and you want to get in on the action, when you see a listener question pop up on the Walk Show socials, leave your answer in the comments or email them to thewalkshow@gmail.com. On that note, let's do today's Double Feature Preacher.
The Double Feature Preacher is brought to you by Planet Bean Coffee.
Woo, that is a tasty f***ing brew.
And by The Walk Show.
Today's music feature is Hands of Time by Cape Breton, Nova Scotia's own Blair Sparrow. Hands of Time sits in that rare spot where you could call it alternative rock, country, pop rock, or any combination of these. Not that labels really matter. What's important is that this track is catchy, well-written, and really displays Blair Sparrow's wide vocal range. Hands of Time could and should do really well on both Canadian and international radio. Thanks for sharing it with me, Blair. You can support Blair Sparrow by checking out his Linktree at linktr.ee/Blair Sparrow, and be sure to give him a follow on the socials. Today's Planet Bean feature is their Vincenzo's Own blend. This is a blend exclusively available at Vincenzo's in Waterloo. This is a really interesting blend with a caramel aroma and flavors of chocolate, nuts, and dried fruit. I think this is one of my favorite Planet Bean products so far. This blend balances that fine line of being complex without being too much. Planet Bean Coffee is Guelph's coffee company, having roasted fair trade and organic coffee since 1997. Check out what they're up to, get a list of locations and a list of vendors at planetbeancoffee.com. Most importantly, support Planet Bean with your dollars. You'll be glad you did. Oh, and when you do, if you want to help out the Walk Show, please let them know that I sent you.
Stick around to the end of the podcast to hear the full song from today's double feature preacher artist.
For this episode, I had a conversation with Joan Smith and Tom Juhas of Joan Smith and the Jane Does. I was introduced to this band and pointed in their direction to have them on the show by mutual friend Jonathan Sohn of Cartridge Heart and the Mendozas. Turns out I'm a big fan of Joan, Tom, and the band, so a big thanks to John for making this all happen. Fantastic band, fantastic people. We had a great chat, and I hope you dig it. So let's get into it. And we are rolling here today with Joan Smith and Tom Juhas of Joan Smith and the Jane Does. Thanks so much for making time for the show today.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks, Derek.
Hey, my pleasure. How are you doing? I guess we talked a little bit before we went live to air, but I'm just gonna ask you. How are you?
It's a beautiful day here in Toronto, so it's been the first kind of like summery day that we've had, so can't complain too much.
Yeah, we wandered around the city quite a bit today, and met up with a friend, gonna meet up with another friend later, and met up with double moms. We did a double mom pre-mom's day, so you know, it's been a good day.
Yeah,
beautiful. And yeah, it is a beautiful day out there. It's I was kind of all over Hell's Half Acre, and it was a great day for driving. You know, it's nobody loves driving, especially like GTA or like city area, but all things considered, I did have a better time driving today than I have all winter. That's for damn sure.
We drive too much, and I think that's what made this day really good for us, is that we woke up in Toronto and didn't have to drive anywhere.
Yeah,
so
no driving.
That made for a good day.
Yeah, that's amazing. Living in Toronto, do you do a lot of driving in the city, or do you just TTC?
Well, I mean, we technically live in Peterborough, but we also have a crash pad in Toronto, so we are driving around like crazy people all the time. But so when we're in Toronto, we're generally driving around as well, because we're usually driving to gigs. But when we get to have a day off, then it's TTC time.
Yeah, well, the TTC is amazing. I mean, it's something I don't think enough people really praise the TTC the way they should. Like, it runs on a dime, more or less, right?
Sometimes. Yeah, the last 2 days have been going well.
Yeah,
so.
That's true.
I don't know. I suppose, like every public transit is going to be off schedule a little bit. But I mean, I'm in Guelph here. It's a much smaller system, and it has, I feel like, more problems. So,
right.
I just want to, pump some tires anywhere and everywhere I can. So, props to the TTC. If anyone from the TTC is listening and you want to, subscribe to my Patreon or something, so that'd be cool.
We also, like Joan was saying, it was a beautiful day. So we spent a lot of time on foot, went down nostalgia road.
Yeah.
Through a lot of old Toronto, and walking around is pretty great too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And honestly, I think you might get places faster than a lot of the cars, right?
Oh yeah, totally. And then when you have your bike, then you're unstoppable as long as you don't get run over. But yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's always a thing too. So I have to ask, if you're in Peterborough, what's the scene like there? Is the Red Dog still a thing?
No. The Red Dog is no longer a thing, but we got Jethro's, and we have the Pig's Ear has reopened, and there's new things going on. But yeah, there's certainly a lot of great musicians out there.
Yeah. There's more musicians than there are venues, for sure. But it is an awesome scene of musicians who live there, absolutely. And that's part of what attracted us to moving there.
Yeah, well, it used to be a killer scene. I know that much. I don't get out there too much these days, but I think it was a couple years ago maybe I played the Red Dog, and it had seen better days. You walked in there and it just reeked of like somebody was just mowing butts in the back, and like man, that's you can't do that anymore.
The last time we were there was it was wintertime. We had just moved there for the first time. We've actually been back and forth, but Ariel Posen was playing, and we wanted to go check him out. So we went to see the show, and it was a great show. I remember going to the bathroom, and their lighting source in the bathroom was candles. So there was just like hot wax just like seeping down the urinals, and yeah, it was I think it was time.
It's time for it to go.
Yeah.
Maybe it's like the building's still there, so maybe it'll turn into another venue at some point. Hopefully it does, because it really filled a good hole of that size of venue in Peterborough.
Yeah, and it was a great stage. Like it felt like it was a bigger venue than it was, I think.
Totally. Yeah, it was a really great stage and a good size. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know if the stage is still there, but hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully someone does something to it at some point. But that strip, Hunter Street, is pretty great. There's still a lot of great bars, and the Only's still there, and that place has got a great patio, and the Gordon Best upstairs. Yeah, it's still nice to walk around there and grab a meal or a beer or see some friends.
That's cool. And I mean, it feels like removed enough from, like, it obviously is GTA, or is it? I don't know. I would consider it GTA, but
it is
its own thing.
It is beyond the GTA technically, but yeah, I mean, in terms of places that were in proximity that were affordable to us, it was the closest city that isn't a suburb.
Yeah,
appealed to it.
Well, that's just it, right? It's like affordability while still being close enough to the amenities you kind of need, right? Like, I feel like Peterborough it has like a similar feel to like Oshawa to me, where like it still feels kind of like Toronto-ish, but it's, you know, far enough removed to where, like, you know, you're not paying $1 million for a studio apartment, like.
Exactly.
Yeah. Also, I gotta shout out whoever named the Red Dog and the one underneath. I remember playing under the Red Dog. I was like, "Oh, what's this one called?" They're like, "The Underdog." I'm like, "Oh, okay. Of course it is."
You got to actually play the Underdog.
Well, I used to play in a metal band, so we played like every seedy room in North America, I think.
Awesome.
Yeah, man. It's never a nice club. Like I graduated to the Red Dog when I started playing with Apricity. And she does far more palatable style of music. So,
right.
It was moving on up. But yeah, the fact that it's not around anymore is kind of a bummer. That was
sure.
It was a
piece of history.
It was, yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, you know, I was gonna get to Peterborough later, but we kind of got there early, so that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's. I mean, if you're around there and you're looking for things to do, like, the Pig's Ear is where it's at in terms of. I mean, there's always a variety, and I think they generally just do Saturdays. But
in terms of live music, yeah.
In terms of live music, I mean, there's open mics and things like that. But yeah,
that's cool. Well, it's good that there's somewhere, and I mean, you know what? Saturday only might not be a bad thing for a market that only really requires that, you know? Because what happens sometimes in Guelph is they just have too many shows, and you know, I'm not throwing shade. We have excellent promoters here, but I feel like if you bite off more than you can chew in that regard, you know, 5 people show up and everybody's kind of bummed out, right? I mean, even the people going to the show because they're looking around like, where is everybody?
Totally. Yeah. So yeah, it's better to quality versus quantity is important.
Definitely. Before we go any further, I mean, Joan Smith and the Jane Does is pretty much the perfect band name. I just got to say it because I'm going through the process of trying to name a band right now, and you know, if I had hair, it would have fallen out. So, I personally hate the process. A, do you enjoy the process of naming bands, and B, how did you land on such a great name?
I mean, I enjoy naming projects. It can be, obviously it's torturous, but once you hit on something great, then it totally works. And in terms of us naming this band, it initially was like, I used to have a band called Littlefoot Longfoot, and then I was going solo, but then I was starting to work with Tom. And then when we initially actually, our first name for the project was called Twin Tanks. But then I got a little grant to do a solo project. And so it had to be Joan Smith and something. And then Tom suggested one day, he's like, well, if this is like a feminist sort of leaning thing with, you're talking about unmentioned women who are unconsidered and sometimes like unidentified female bodies, like, what about Jane Does? And my name is fake sounding, and Jane Does
plays off the already kind of like generic name. But it's funny that you say that too, because we've been struggling with it lately because it seems like a mouthful for people to remember. People keep calling Joan Jane.
Yeah.
And
Jane Smith and the Jane Does happens a lot. Or the Jane Smith and the John Does happens a lot too.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the other problem is like there's, you know, a couple dudes in the band. And so we're just like, do we need to change this again? But I think we're here. We're, you know, and it's nice to see that that people are resonating with our original intention.
Yeah.
And hearing it for what it is. And after a while, it just becomes what you do, and you just gotta stick to it sometimes.
Yeah, but I'm glad that you like the name. Thank you.
Yeah, well, I mean, my pleasure. It's, you know, again, you got to give credit where it's due because I'm just banging my head against the wall trying to name this project. And, you know, I feel like we're just going to end up settling on something that everybody kind of hates. So at least there's some compromise.
Oh, man.
But I do think, I don't know, I like the fact that there's dudes in the band and it's the Jane Does, like, especially because, you know, now that I know there's, you know, a bit of a feminist origin story to it. Like it's less on the nose than the John Does. You know what I mean?
Totally. Yeah. It has a lot of meaning for us either way. So even when times when people are mismentioning it or misnaming it, it's like, no, but there's still like a purpose to this name. So even if you get it wrong, maybe one day you'll get it right, and you'll get the point of it if you pay attention. So yeah, if you pay attention, then that's rad.
Awesome. Also, I gotta say, sorry, I cut you off, Tom. You go ahead, man.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, we are such a artistic product of the '90s, and like, you know, we love Nirvana. We just played a Nirvana whole night the other night with our cover band. But like, you know, just the idea of there was a few. I think originally I was just like, it would be great if the dudes just wore dresses and like, I mean, some of those barriers. I mean, you know, they come up once in a while. You know, like a man's not supposed to be looking so feminine or whatever. But, you know, just trying to tear some of that shit down. And that, I mean, as a byproduct of having a couple dudes in the Jane Does, and just not being too concerned about
being named a female name.
Yeah, it's all good. You know?
Yeah, no, I mean, personally, I think it's you know, it's a feather in your cap. It's a good thing, right? It's and in terms of going up on with dresses on, like hell yeah. I mean, Kurt Cobain did that back in the day for sure.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he looked good in a dress too.
Of course he did. He was a hunk.
Absolutely.
I gotta say, Littlefoot Longfoot, another awesome band name. I have to ask you though, Dave Chappelle reference?
It was. It's an ancient Dave Chappelle reference. Nice. Yeah, back in the day, I was watching a lot of Dave Chappelle back then, and another time was like, what do we name this band? And then I just found that name to be utterly hilarious. And then later on, we're like, oh, that one got mispronounced all the time too, or they just be like Little Feet. I'm like, no, that's a whole. I didn't even know that. They were like Little Foot, or they'd be like Big Little Foot. They're like, sure, whatever, man, whatever you need. So I guess I just always beg. Yeah, I beg for some kind of torture when picking long band names.
Yeah, I don't know what you mean. Like it's names are hard no matter where you start from, and I think it always kind of just ends up like this one.
Yeah, yeah. Good luck with your choices.
Exactly. You know, I always just say like, as long as I don't hate it, then that's it. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. The podcast was tough because there's no bandmates to kind of bounce things off of, but I don't know. My nickname in high school was D-Walk, and you know, people smoked a lot of weed, so brevity was a thing, and that became Walk. And I had a show, so it became the Walk Show. Done.
That's a great.
I'm going on break. You know.
Sweet.
Yeah. It's you know, just a thing of convenience, I guess. But I don't know. I also feel like, you know, there's a band called Korn with a K and a backwards R. You know, like it's.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I don't know.
Yeah, right. Like, where does that? Who decided that was like? We must call the band this.
Korn. Yeah, like come on, that's ridiculous. But no one questions it.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
it is.
And you know, I totally forgot this, but I saw like kind of a throwback thing on Facebook. They used to be called, I think there was maybe a different member or two, but they used to be called LAPD, which stood for Love and Peace Dude. So
no.
I think Korn might actually be an upgrade.
That could have been. Yeah.
Oh my god. That's awesome.
It's always like after the fact when the band has made the name for themselves that, you know, you think about what could have been, and it's just like that would have changed everything. But would it? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if that would have changed it for Lauren or not. LAPD.
Yeah. As if there's anything lovely or peaceful, you know, about the LAPD. But hey, that's another episode, maybe.
Yeah, totally.
That is definitely a political episode.
Indeed.
Yeah. That's a Walk Show after dark. That's what So you do. I was going to ask you because I saw you're doing the Queens of the Stone Age set, and I think you did one already. Is that correct?
Yeah, we've done a couple already. We're doing another one tomorrow in Hamilton.
That rules.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we also did it a couple of years ago. We did all of Songs for the Deaf, and that went really well. But this is like a lot of work, a lot of bringing of extra guitars to tune down to C.
Yeah,
and demanding your drummer to be Dave Grohl and all that. But then we decided to do Lullabies with Paralyzed this past time at the Horseshoe. That was rad. Like, it was like packed out.
But it's a thing that Joan and I connected on pretty early when we were talking about music as being like, you know, people meeting each other for the first time. Queens of the Stone Age was a big one. And since then we've seen them maybe an unhealthy amount of times.
Yeah.
And
got to hang out with some of them sometimes too, which is great.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. It's so fun to see them play, and we absolutely love that music. So it makes sense for like our audience to resonate with.
Well, that's fantastic. I love that. I mean, that's a lot of work, though, right? You did full albums front to back.
Yeah. We've done now 2 of their albums front to back. The show we're playing in Toronto and Hamilton tomorrow is just more a smattering of a bunch of tunes from the albums that we've learned so far. But maybe next we'll do Era Vulgaris for next time we're looking for some more torture in our brains. Yeah. We like torturing ourselves, learning like way too many songs all the time in between writing our own songs. But like, I don't know, I get off on it. Like we both get off on it. Like Tom's great at like digging into the structure of the song and really figuring out how it actually makes that sound. And so we like the challenge.
That's so cool. I mean, I find stuff like that does kind of add, obviously it adds to your repertoire, but I mean, even just as an artist, right? Just as a creative force, maybe sort of go into the different wells that influence you. It sounds, I guess, kind of cliche, but I think it's true, right? Like it's, totally it obviously helps you as a creative force, as an artist.
Yeah. I mean, it's, at this point in the history of making music, everything is just taking from something else. So when I'm personally writing a song, I'm usually thinking of another song when I'm trying to write the next song. And hopefully it never really comes off as a direct ripoff of whatever I was thinking of. But that's the best way that I personally get inspired to write another song, is by like seeing another band play something. And I'm like, oh my God, I want to make something as good as that. Yeah. Or that's really good, but can I take it over there to this other direction? And yeah, like you have to bow down to your influences 100%.
Yeah. Just being open to that idea, right? Like it's, I don't know. Some people kind of close themselves off because, well, I suppose I shouldn't try to get in anybody's head, but I mean, it kind of stands to reason that some people close off to things like that because they don't want to, they're into their own sound, but I mean, they don't realize that, your sound, like you said, it's all borrowed from something. There are only so many notes and so many cadences, right? Like it's.
Yeah, no, inspiration is a beautiful thing, like taking from the artists that inspire you to create. It's a shame to kind of like, I think it's a disservice to pretend that's not where it came from,
Yeah.
And it's like, it's part of the conversation of art, you just like take that thing and you do it your own way, and it morphs into something else that is new for someone else.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a cool thing. I mean, you kind of get reductionist about it, talking about, there's only so many notes, and not you. I mean, I just said that, but like, at the same time, it's still such a mystical and such a beautiful thing, right? It's amazing how so much can come from, these few notes and these few cadences, and that's my hippie moment, by the way. That's
totally. Yeah, I was like, let's talk about the concept, man. Yeah. Yeah.
I will say, going back to Queens of the Stone Age, I've seen them twice. The first time was Songs for the Deaf tour, and I thought we were going to see Dave Grohl in Toronto, but it was like Joey C's first tour with them.
Oh man, he's so great too, though.
Totally.
Unbelievable drummer. But I mean, obviously Dave Grohl, just, I don't know. I mean, I'm a product of the 80s and the 90s, so I mean, Nirvana was huge when I was coming up. And it would have been so cool to see Dave Grohl. But yeah, Joey C was definitely amazing.
Yeah.
And then I saw them, I guess it was last year, with Troy Van Leeuwen on guitar and John Theodore from Mars Volta on drums.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that lineup is like the current lineup that I guess has been going on for maybe like 10 years or something now. They're great. Like it's always fun going to see them. But like it would have, like when we look up old footage, especially when we're like learning those songs, they're like an era that I wish could have seen and totally didn't, was it was like Joey Castillo on drums, but it was when Natasha Schneider was still alive, and then Alan Johannes was there, and Troy was there. Yeah. And like that combination, like that live footage, it's unbelievable. Like the energy of that is great. And obviously everybody's like in their, like they're 20 years younger. So it's a different energy than it is at this moment, which is still great. But yeah, it's cool to like dig through those eras of that one band. It morphs to so many things. And Josh Homme's he's the one thorough line of the whole thing.
Yeah. He's so cool. And I mean, I gotta say, Troy Van Leeuwen, like one of my favorite bands of all time is Failure. So like getting to see him on stage, I was just fanboying out.
Yeah, I love watching him.
And he's been around for basically the whole time.
Most of the time. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sometimes I forget that because I just equate him with Failure, even though he wasn't even in Failure for the whole time. I just saw them as a 3-piece at a few years ago now at it's gonna escape me, but it's on Queen Street, and I can't think of the venue name, so I'm just gonna move on. But that was like I was full on tearing up, and I'm just gonna admit it live on the air. It was just like
hitting those nostalgia, like seeing those bands, like that was Dinosaur Jr. for me,
right?
Yeah. Oh, that's definitely one of those bands. Yeah. So cool. So you definitely do other bands. That was one of my questions. So you did a Nirvana set. You've done Queens of the Stone Age. You mentioned something about a cover band. Is that like maybe not tribute, kind of more variety?
Yeah, it's called Generator Party. So that's kind of our cover band iteration where once in a while we'll, like last week we did just do Nirvana and Hole, but usually we basically just focus on the 90s, early 2000s alternative rock is the general umbrella that we keep it under, which is a lot of grunge. Like a lot of people are like, we're a grunge, like they're a grunge cover band. It's like, there is a lot of grunge, but in terms of Jane Doe's, we've also done Rage Against the Machine. We've done a full Rage Against the Machine night, and we've done the Dead Weather as well, which was like the most obscure one that we did.
And Zeppelin.
Oh yeah, we've also done Zeppelin.
Wow.
Zeppelin is
You're keeping your band busy.
I know we're hard on them, and they put up with us. So it's good.
Well, anything that has to do with guitar in the band, basically, we're gonna throw it at our band at some point.
Oh, that's awesome! It sounds like a lot of fun, and it's just one of those things where, like, I feel like if you want to do the professional musician thing, or at least in my case, like, you gotta play a ton of covers. You just do. I remember like 20 years ago, I thought it was like waving the white flag, but no, it's just the way it is.
Yeah, it's just sort of in terms of being able to bring home some cash, it's a good thing. And I've always I grew up as a theater student, and so I was always doing musicals and stuff. So like learning how to perform something else and portraying someone else. So getting into the cover band thing for me was very much like I see it as that kind of like the theater kid going off into, but also like being a kid who fucking just loved music and wanted to grow up being a musician. So squishing them both together into like embodying like Zach De La Rocha or Robert Plant or Josh Homme, whatever. Like I love trying to get into those people's brains in that way. And then Tom's so good at figuring out how to make this music actually sound the way that these original people created it.
Well, and there's a different feeling too in performing it. There's something about, I remember being a kid and learning songs on the guitar, but it would mostly be like riffs and then like whatever the chorus goes, something like that. Not so fun or whatever, but like when you kind of need to try to make that sound on a stage in front of people and get through the whole, and especially if you're focused on something especially nuanced like Rage for a guitar player and for a singer, drummer, like all of the things, bass player, like there's all kinds of, all these bands kind of have that, but like once you kind of commit to it and get right inside all the sounds and the feel and the lyrics and the purpose watching live shows. It kind of, there's so much to learn there. There's a different feeling that you can get to that is more than just kind of like learning a riff here and there. It's exciting and fun, and it takes us outside of our own thing, but also helps inform the next project that we work on in terms of our own original music, because there are very clear references that we made everyone learn and ourselves learn, like the sound from this or the feel from that, and the energy, and then trying to make that translate to an audience is it's great. It's just, like I said, just so much to learn from it.
There really is something there. I mean, and I notice it the older I get, just insofar as like performing live is essentially just like it's like an energy transfer, it's a vibe thing. Yeah. And I didn't really get that, when I started playing. It's kind of like you're talking about where you learn the riff, but then you kind of graduate to really dissecting the music and getting into like the feel of it. And Rage is a perfect example, because obviously Rage is awesome, but the more you get in and dissect those songs, like there's a pocket there that just, it's not like a tangible thing, but it's just like it's the only way I can explain it.
Yeah. It is only in and of itself. And other people, we can all try and recreate it, but no matter what, like that organism exists itself and always will.
And that's like a perfect example. So like Rage, when we started learning the Rage stuff, it was like very clear that like a lot of the tempos would shift depending on how Zach wanted to deliver the lyrics. So I want to deliver them fast now, and then it's hyper, and then it changes, and then the chorus drops, and then it sinks into this pocket of like a totally different tempo, and they're all there. It's one of those things that like when the last sessions that we did with the band, we wanted to have everyone in the room and like have the live feel. And one of the things that we struggled with at first was like the idea of do we be safe and just have everything to a click, or do we chase the thing that is our inspiration and abandon it and let the song breathe and change tempos and get more exciting and then sink into some kind of deep groove? And yeah, like that has, like, learning the Rage stuff really did kind of change the way we approached something like Diet Rock.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's crazy how, and another one of those things, like, I just didn't know back in the day, is when you hear a drummer talk about like playing on top of the beat or kind of playing behind the beat. Like, yeah, again, all these things that you kind of learn, and Rage is just such a great example. Yeah, I'm just glad you brought them up. I know there's sort of a hybrid theory as well too, where you can kind of sequence your click tracks, and it's definitely not as organic, but like, I don't know. I used to play in a Slipknot tribute, and like they didn't record anything to a click track.
No.
And yet they had all these samples and stuff. So because we had to have tracks, we had to have a click track, and yeah, just like changing almost bar to bar. It was crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, we toyed around with that for a while too, and it was a similar thing, like you do it enough times with the beat map, and then what happens if we abandon it?
Yeah. Now that we've practiced with that, let's get rid of it. Let's scrap it.
Yeah. And a lot of times it would be a lot closer to, like you said, and talking about Queens of the Stone Age, like that's one of the things that Josh is always talking about. Like they never use a click track, which seems insane to me, because those songs are so, the driving force is like, it's very steady, but apparently that's the way they did it. And same with all those bands that we referenced, like a lot of the 90s stuff didn't go that way. It's just
well, and decades before that, right? I mean, like
Totally.
I doubt a band like Steely Dan had a click track in the studio. I feel like they were, maybe too elitist to kind of lower themselves to, a click track. But I know for me, like, I don't know, I almost became too dependent on a click track. But I feel like for guys like, John Theodore and the great musicians that have come and gone at Queens of the Stone Age, like, they're probably practicing to a click so much on their own that their meter's just so good,
Exactly. And I mean, when we get an opportunity to play with so many different awesome drummers and getting to learn all of their different tendencies and who's more behind a beat or one that's more on top of it, certain feels, and enjoying all of them within the thing that they do and like their personality of it. And I mean, like, sure, it's like great to have the robot drummer who's always going to be completely on the entire time. But once in a while, it's like, I want it to go up there and go. But yeah, like having a solid as a rock drummer who can play exactly on the beat when there is a click. Of course, that's sought after. But it's great to have a drummer with personality who will play with it. So
yeah. I feel like I say this all the time on these drum forums, and sometimes I get hammered on for saying it. But like, if you want to be a drummer in 2025, you got to be comfy in both schools of thought, right? There are definitely going to be bands that are anti-click, and there are going to be bands that have tracks and even lights that are, synced up with the click, right? So if you can't do it, you might not get the gig.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. Because that could be really awesome.
Oh, hell yeah. And there's something too, and and I realize I'm talking a lot about the click track, so sorry to the listeners, but at the same time, you're welcome. Practice your click tracks, kids. But I will say there's something about like manipulating a click track. It doesn't necessarily have to be robotic. Like you can, again, on top or behind or both, or kind of speeding up a fill and backing it off to get back on that downbeat. Like there's, just because you have a click track doesn't mean you need to sound like a metronome.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's my public service announcement.
Drummer PSA.
Yeah, because you gotta have one, right? Anyway, kids, send your hate mail to thewalkshow@gmail.com. What I probably should do at this point is take the quick commercial break, show some love to the sponsors, but we will be right back right after this. Today's episode of The Walk Show is brought to you in part by Rock Sparrow. Rock Sparrow brings artists and brands to life through quality merchandise. They help entrepreneurs, artists, and brands with online merch solutions, taking the guesswork out of merchandising your brand by managing your every need, and all with real people. Speaking of real people, I've known the creators of Rock Sparrow for years, and I can tell you firsthand, these people genuinely care about what they do for their clients and their community. There's even a store there set up for The Walk Show. Check out what they're up to at rocksparrow.ca. If you want to join up like I did, send them an email at info@rocksparrow.ca. And if you want to check out my Rock Sparrow merch, it's at The Walk Show. That's WOK.rocksparrow.ca. Again, that's thewalkshow.rocksparrow.ca. In any case, if you want to help out The Walk Show, please let them know that I sent you. Hey, business owners, wouldn't it be cool if I was taking this time to talk about your product or service? I've enjoyed building relationships with some very cool companies since I started this thing, and I am looking to expand the Walk Show family. I work with some great sponsors, and I've sponsored events through the podcast, so I do understand how valuable time and resources can be. If you have any interest or questions about working with the show, hit me up at thewalkshow@gmail.com. Again, that's thewalkshow, WOK, @gmail.com. I hope you're enjoying the podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Now let's get back to the show. And we are back. And yeah, we were talking so much about covers and tribute bands and influences. I thought maybe we could go down the rabbit hole a little bit more just on influences. Like, who are some of the other bands that influence your sound and even just yourselves as individual players?
You want to go first, Tom?
Yeah, I guess, I don't know. Been all over the map. Me personally, I don't know. You know, I like a lot of jazz. I guess especially did a lot of that in my early 20s, and got really into a guy named Kurt Rosenwinkel and Mark Ribot and Medeski Martin Wood.
Okay.
And yeah, a lot of music. I always kind of found myself like I would start these bands, these like quote unquote jazz bands that ended up kind of being like a little bit more on the rock side, like more on one hand kind of composed, more like written music than a lot of jazz music or other friends' music at the time that were pursuing something that can be placed under that word. But yeah, and a lot of either my teachers at school or you know, other musicians would kind of either be like, really, you want to play this loud, or really you want to simplify this part so that it just kind of goes, you know, instead of having the freedom to just kind of play around and improvise. And I do absolutely love that approach to music, but some of the things that I really loved kind of merged all of those things. So, you know, I think I mentioned Dinosaur Jr. and that idea of just like, you know, a lot of his guitar solos sounded unique to me, and they kind of sounded off the cuff. His vocal style kind of sounded that way. And I think that might be somewhat of a relation there, but like Medeski Martin Wood absolutely was very experimental and jammy. And then I got into things like Mr. Bungle that were like very, very, very structured in kind of like a schizophrenic way, to the point where it's like, how can you even replicate this 2 nights in a row? And an offshoot of that was Secret Chiefs 3, which kind of was a little bit more towards world music explorations and improvisation. I don't know. So I guess I really like, you know, something like Kurt Rosenwinkel, again, is like a jazz guitar player who is very versed in like the language of improvisation, but also has very through composed music. And I think there was something unique about the sound he was creating that, you know, kind of reminded me more of Coltrane than all the people that played saxophone like Coltrane, you know?
Yeah, I mean, fair enough. It's fun. Well, when you were rhyming off like jazz musicians, I got to be honest, I the only one that I knew of was Medeski Martin and Wood.
Okay.
So I have some learning to do.
Yeah, I mean, you know, everyone's got their pursuit, and it's funny. Like, you never know what's gonna hit you at whatever time, and those were the things that really got me when I was in my late teens and 20s, and that's shifted quite a bit. Like, Joan and I really got off on. We went to see Lambrini Girls last night, and that was, you know, a recommendation from a fan that knew that we really liked Idols, and yeah, you know, like that English sort of like punk rock rap aggressive positivity and like social justice sort of lyrical content and purpose is, reminiscent of Rage as well, and yeah. So for me, that's kind of like where I started, and then how working with Joan and like clicking on music and kind of growing our inspiration together, like with some of the new music that's out there, has sort of developed.
That's very cool. And I mean, I love that you came into this from sort of a jazz origin. That's very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I have a brother that's a little bit older than me that plays drums, and he got really into Sly and the Family Stone and James Brown and like, Buddy Rich and all that stuff, and Jamiroquai, like early Jamiroquai, before famous Jamiroquai.
Like and, Return of the Space Cowboy,
Jamiroquai. Yeah, totally.
Nice.
An Emergency and all that stuff, and like it blew me away. That was nothing like the things that I was hearing on the radio at the time, and there was something that reminded me of the past, because my dad was also a bass player, and he was really into rock and roll and funk music. And he loved Deep Purple and the Beatles and all that stuff. So all those sounds were kind of in my ear, and I just kind of like, whenever we were on a long car ride with the family, I'd be like singing the trumpet part and singing the lyrics and the guitar solos. They would all just kind of stick in my brain. That's just kind of how music works for me. Like I fixate on all the parts. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I guess maybe jazz was a challenge to that, because there's so much going on, and there's so much that changes constantly, and improvised music, you can't predict how it's going to go all the time. So there was something thrilling about that for me, because, listening to people that kind of seem to land on their feet all the time and make it up as they go along, was unbelievable.
It is really cool, eh? Like it seems, I don't know, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it feels to me like it's not necessarily that they're always, you know what? They are landing on their feet, but they're still tripping.
You're right,
it's just about it's about sticking the landing, right?
Yeah. Well, and I mean, some of the most memorable moments, in a lot of recorded music, but even like live shows that I've seen, have been when things have gone kind of terribly wrong, and you see the way people work around it, and sometimes that's more exciting than the actual song,
Definitely. Yeah. What about you, Joan?
Yeah, I guess my big things growing up, Tori Amos was like, I wanted her to be my mother growing up, basically. I played piano as a kid, but I definitely never got to her level. But her weird, absurdist lyrics, coupled with listening to Beck at the same time, that I really grew to appreciate the poetry and the nothingness of what they were sometimes saying, which actually meant something. Otherwise, like I mentioned, we were doing Nirvana versus Hole, but like Hole Live Through This is definitely, even like I can still listen to that record this day and it still makes me feel all the things. And also just the super tightness composed of all those songs. They're like such fully realized tunes that are sometimes only 2.5 minutes long. And this is like where Tom and I are different, but like we come together well. But like I am terrible at improv, and improvising music is terrifying to me. I'm just like, I like the song to be 3.5 minutes long. Even though like I grew up loving Zeppelin and stuff too, and I know that's all jammy, but like I can't guitar solo to save my life. Like if I'll learn a solo, but I can't. If you're like, go rip a solo, I'd be like, I don't know. But I'll write you a tight 3-minute melodic song. How's that sound? But yeah, I loved Elastica growing up. Like their self-titled record really like taught me a lot about songwriting as well, and just fucking attitude. And Sex Pistols also, like, I know they're a joke in some ways, but I loved that record. And then I grew up through there and to more modern days. Yeah, like Idols has been a great big influence of late. And Jack White also growing up was huge for me. Like Jack White's like the first, White Stripes were the first way that I think I understood to play electric guitar, because I grew up, my parents would only buy me an acoustic guitar when I was a kid. Even I really wanted to play bass, but they were like, no, that means you have to go play with a band and that will be loud. So here's your acoustic guitar.
Oh, that backfired on them.
Yeah, that backfired on them real good. But at least like they got me out of their basement before I started playing in a loud rock and roll band. But yeah, when I started hearing like Jack White play like very like basic blues riffs with White Stripes, but I was like, I can play that. I get that. And so that's how I finally got into, and I played in a 2-piece like drums and guitar band for a while, because that's what made the most sense to me. And then just like the high pitched vocals with like rapid fire, almost rappy lyrics. Like,
wow.
I love that shit. And yeah. And then these days, like, I love rapping. So like learning Rage Against the Machine songs has been like one of my favorite challenges ever. Just like getting, like, I'm not a drummer at all, but I love playing with the drummer and getting those fucking words to like fit perfectly in between everything as fast as they possibly can go.
It's so cool. I mean, that's what I love about hip hop too, is just like, oh man, it's like, it's like a full drum kit, like just with an MC, you know what I mean? Like it's,
totally.
Yeah.
There's a band called the Bobby Lees that are really great. And the lead singer of that band, she's recently started more of a rap project, but you can hear it in her rock songs with the Bobby Lees. Like she's got the very rapid fire, like 1,000 words a minute kind of a song. And now she's started an actual rap project as well. And it's rad because she's got that cadence and that attack and all the things to say. So sometimes you need to fit 5,000 words into the song to really see what you need to say, and it can be fucking great.
Yeah, well, if you're talented enough to do it, I mean, I don't know. I've fronted a couple of bands in my tenure, but I'm also just like the whitest dude ever. So my flossing and flowing, let's just say I'm not spitting bars, all right?
I mean, all the like rappers I'm currently referencing are all very white people. I mean, I love hip hop too, but yeah, it's like I'm terrified to even probably try and learn a legitimate person who's not white. Probably I don't want to come out like, I'm a white girl trying to sound like this. I'm like, no, I'll just stay away from that.
Yeah. Well, fair enough. I mean, I don't know. There's definitely people that are talented enough out there. I'm just not one of them when it comes to that kind of stuff. So I just stick behind the drum kit for the most part. Yeah, I don't know. I definitely had a bunch of years where I fronted a couple bands, but I just I don't know. I went back behind my my comfort zone. That's but it sounds like, I mean, the two of you love being under the bus. Like you like being outside of your comfort zone, yeah? Is that a fair way to put it?
Well, I mean, I guess we've been forcing each other to be outside of the comfort zone.
Yeah, we force each other to stretch, for sure. Yeah, it's great, because otherwise stagnate or quit, you know?
Yeah.
We keep each other going. Absolutely.
Well, it's a great way to be. It's just, it takes, I find, a lot of courage, like as a musician, to really kind of stretch your zone, you know? Some people just kind of stay within theirs, and, you know, there's nothing wrong with that, but it's just, I just have admiration for artists that are willing to push the envelope.
Awesome.
I think that's cool. Are there any bands or artists one of you absolutely loves, but the other can't stand?
Oh. can't stand at all. I mean, like we were having discussion. Like I wouldn't say I can't stand them, but like Tom really likes Steely Dan, and
That's right.
and I'm just kind of like I didn't grow up listening to Steely Dan, and I can hear a Steely Dan song today, and like I know it's Steely Dan. I'm like, that is very skilled. It's good, but I feel nothing. I don't hate it in any way. I respect it, but it doesn't really make me feel anything. But it can make him feel a lot of things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair.
Thing that I like. That you're like,
I mean, there's got to be. I think there
must
has
be.
been.
I'm sure there is.
But I don't know. I can't think of it right now.
I don't really make you
I
listen
think
to
I come around though. Like I try
You
to
do.
always have a open mind about any of that stuff, and to see like if there's something that I'm really having a hard time with, like either Joan will find a way for me to understand what she appreciates about it, or like maybe the backstory, and then I could kind of come around. I can't think of what that is right now though, but there is something. Anyway, or I don't know, or she just turns it off.
I just don't make
You guys getting pissed.
I think there was one day I was trying to explain to you Womanizer by Britney Spears, which for some reason is a song that I like, even though it's dumb. But I was like, no, this is like the chorus that goes, womanizer, womanizer, oh, you're a womanizer, oh, womanizer, oh, you're like, what are you talking about? This is the worst. It's like, I don't know. But in comparison to a lot of pop songs today, Womanizer is an excellent song. Written by like 14 Swedish pop writers or something, probably.
Yeah, I mean, all that stuff. Like I could get down with that. Like
You
pop
totally
songs, like
Totally.
The Max Martins of the world and whatnot. It's all good. There's just a time and a place sometimes.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're not always there for it.
Yeah.
And sometimes what was it? We were watching something and like The Goodbye Look, which I keep forcing on other friends of mine. I played one at a friend's party the other day, and it starts with this marimba solo. It's Donald Fagen from Steely Dan.
Yeah.
And it's utterly unlistenable unless you're in on it, unless you could paint the picture of like absurd, like, and like these lyrics are so dumb, but it could sound awful on first listen.
Yeah, because it came on at the end of a show we were watching called Poker Face, and he was losing his mind. I'm like, what?
Perfect use of this song. And then we listened to it, and I was just like, yeah, okay. So you can't just put it on. Fair enough. That's a lot of remember.
Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah, some things we grow up with and love, and you can't expect obviously the other person to have the exact same experience with it. But Tom is very good at embracing when I'm like, here's this stupid fucking song, and then he's like, I understand the value of that.
Well, I think it's cool that you come around though, Tom, because it's, I don't know, some of my favorite bands I couldn't stand when I first heard them. And some music I like, I can't even justify why I like it. It's just like the earworm. It's like a bad commercial. Like at first you hate it, and then the next thing you're singing like Fabric Land,
Beautiful.
You know what? I fucking hated AC/DC when I was a kid. I fucking hated AC/DC. I couldn't stand it. And then like I started teaching guitar, and like, all the hits would come around. And then I started like, I think they're, it's just all the basic chords, E, A, and D, and maybe a G and a C in there once in a while. And then I started playing along, and it'd just be like, hold on. Excuse me, child. Like, just let me have a moment with this. And then you start to get into the groove, and you're like, fuck, that groove's so hard. The tone is so awesome. And then I saw them. I went to Sarstock. I don't know if you remember that, but like, there's Woodbine, and they played second last, and they just like, slayed. It was so awesome. Like I didn't even imagine going to see them live ever, and then I saw them. They were right in front of me, and it was like one of the best things that I had ever seen. And yeah, and now it's just like, of course. But it took me a long time because you know, it was like it's just a few chords and whatever, like, you know, silly lyrics about rock and roll and sex and drugs and shit. Who wants that?
Everyone.
Yeah, it's so awesome. I can't believe it took me so long to figure it out, but yeah, it's, you know, that was a big one for me. That took a second to get around, but that was well before I knew Joan.
Yeah, because by the time, if I had met him and he had said I hate AC/DC,
like,
I would have, like, I just was like, I will never speak to you again. It's like saying to me, you don't like dogs. Like, I'd be like, you don't like AC/DC or you don't like dogs, and it's like we will never get along.
That's hilarious. Yeah, and I get it. I get the AC/DC thing. I mean, I'm a drummer, and you know, it's not always the most fun music to play until you realize how much it grooves, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It feels awesome.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Oh God, what's that like? Ride On. Ride On is a song that grooves for days.
Totally. Yeah, it's just like Bon Scott at his contemplative best. Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. And now you'd mentioned we were talking, of course, a little Britney and pop and just how well written a lot of that stuff is. Now I got to say, the first time I heard the band was on the Go Kick Ass 2 compilation with your cover of Neutron Dance.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's one of those songs where you're just like, man, it's so well written that, like, first of all, you guys knocked it out of the park. But I feel like it was such a well written song that, like, it could handle a facelift like that and still rock, you know? And actually, you made it rock more, I would say.
Oh man, that song is punk rock. That song is so punk rock.
Yeah. But yeah, it was like one of my favorite songs as a little kid. Like I adored that song. And then I remember, like, a long time ago, there was a band called the Brown Hornets, and I saw them play at the Bovine. And they launched into a cover of that song. And then he started handing out bananas at the same time. And it's like, that moment is like indelible in my brain. I was like, this is my favorite live music moment I've ever seen, that this band is covering Neutron Dance as like a super punk rock edition, and also handing out bananas because everybody needs energy while you play the song, you know?
That's right.
Yeah, so that song came up pretty early when Tom and I were playing together, and I was like, can we do Neutron Dance, please?
Yeah, we tried it a few ways too, and they didn't come off. And you know, we started playing with our friend Neil McIntosh, who was on Diet Rock and some of our last recordings on that recording, and he's very much got that spirit, and he was flying playing that song. He was just like so smiley, and it was never fast enough. And this is when we had abandoned the click, and it was never fast enough. And I was like, I think we need to chill out. He's like, no, I think we go faster.
Yeah, totally.
So we just kept going faster, and I just kept laughing every time he played a fill.
Yeah. And the lyrics to that song, are aside from, I mean, they still make Chevrolets, so, you know, even that part is still pertinent to today. But yeah, like, it's just about the working class. It's just, it's more important today of a song than it was whenever it was like 1982 or something that it was written. So yeah, it's awesome to reinvigorate that song, right. And like introduce, and like there's usually like maybe 3 people at a show. They're like, oh my God, you played Neutron Dance. And otherwise it's a lot of people that have never heard it, or they're like, maybe they know it from Beverly Hills Cop a little bit, but that's it. So yeah, that's the most fun kind of song to cover sometimes, is to pick something out of someone's brain that's been dormant forever.
Well, I gotta be honest. I definitely know that song from Beverly Hills Cop, but
yeah, well,
yeah, that's not hard too.
yeah.
But then I found the record when we were in Detroit.
Yeah,
Like, and remembered a lot of the other hits that were on. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Such a great record.
totally.
Sorry, I was just thinking about was it the Beverly Hills Cop soundtrack or the Pointer
No.
Sisters? Okay,
Pointer Sisters.
Pointer
Yeah.
Sisters.
okay, okay. Sorry, my brain is in Beverly Hills Cop land. It's
I was like,
Yeah,
what
yeah.
other songs?
Well, that opening sequence where they're driving through the streets of Detroit and he's like hanging out the back of the truck and cigarettes are
Yeah.
flying everywhere. It's amazing. It's I
mean, even the
But
the third one was good. I'm sorry to interrupt. I had to get that out there.
Sure. No, I had never even seen Beverly Hills Cop by the time I brought up this song with Tom.
Oh yeah, I made you watch it.
You made me watch
that was
it.
probably Joan's version of just like not being able to stand. It wasn't a music thing. It was more of
I was like, this movie is fine. I don't know. I'm like, I'm sure if I was 5 when I saw this would have been awesome. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
I only knew it.
I think like that's the beauty of a lot of those movies is they're probably objectively really bad movies, but like when you were around in the 80s, I mean it was awesome, you know?
Of course. I made him watch A Fish Called Wanda recently. I'm like, this is the best movie of like my life. And then he's like, I don't know, it's kind of funny.
It's good.
But like in my mind, I'm like, that is the apex of comedy and filmmaking. And I'm like watching it now. I'm like, okay, it's not that good. But it's good. But it's still fine.
That's awesome. What did you say the cover band was called again?
Generator Party.
Generator Party. Okay. I heard the generator part because actually like John Sohn and I are desperately looking for a generator for this show this weekend. When you said that, I was like, oh, that's kind of funny because, you know, I got into you guys through John Sohn and how did you link up with Cartridge Heart and John?
John just kept coming out to our shows and being super supportive. And
John is everywhere.
He is everywhere. He's a Renaissance man.
Yeah, he's such a helpful guy, and like he's propping up scenes all around the city and outside of the city. You know, Guelph, Oshawa. You know, and he just like always wants to help. He's DIY to the core, and you know, we've known him for quite a few years now, but he reached out about doing something together, and
it was Go Kick Ass.
Well, we did Go Kick Ass, but like beyond that, he wanted to do some more, and we started talking about you know, we're getting to the point now where we're starting to work on new material and hopefully have some to record before the year's done. But when we first started talking to him about working together to release music with Cartridge Heart, we didn't have anything and we didn't know when we would. But we did have Normalize burned on some CDs that half of them worked, and we got rid of as much as we could before we realized we had to just kind of stop selling them. But then we also had 66 vinyl pressings that went a long time ago, and
from a label in the Netherlands that printed those ones for us. So yeah, those went real fast. So yeah, we were talking about, well, we should probably just reprint them. And then we kind of just brought it up as like a flippant comment to John, like, I'm sorry, I don't have any new music for you right now, but we're thinking of reprinting our first EP. Ha ha ha. And then he was just like, yes, I'll help you with that. I was like, oh shit. Okay. Amazing. You're the best.
Yeah.
Because he loved that record. So he's been around since we recorded that record. So yeah.
Yeah, and he's a wealth of resources, and he's up for everything, you know. So I think that's just like a friendship and a partnership that we hope to work with forever. He's such a great dude.
He is a great dude. I mean, I got to know him through the show, and yeah, shout out to Jonathan Sohn of Cartridge Heart and the Mendozas.
Yeah,
I hope he's
yeah.
listening. Yeah, I mean, it's just it's just such a good dude, and I met him through the podcast. He is all over the place, and he's super DIY, but he also won't work with bands unless he really, really backs them, and he speaks so highly of your band. So, yeah, he actually sent me a copy of Normalize, and I was instantly blown away. And yeah, I was very surprised to find out that it is a re-release. So that actually came out in 2018? Is that right?
It was the first thing we ever put out. Yeah, it was put together fairly quickly.
Yeah,
because that was like bless and curse the Canadian granting system, but sometimes it does put when you get a little grant, it could put a fire under your ass. So it gave us a little bit of the startup money to make that whole thing happen, and everything went on from there. So yeah,
it's kind of a jump off point. But in working with John, he has sent us some material for his up and coming Mendoza's record, where we got to swear into a microphone as loud as we could in our basement. And I think I understand that he's getting a bunch of friends from different bands to participate in that. So yeah, it's just like, it's constantly, just involving each other in each other's world of music, and finding new people and creating new music. And yeah,
it's just such a great music community in and of itself, because again, like, he uses that because he won't just sign anybody. Everybody he does sign is of that quality, right? Where it's like, yeah, sure, you could guest on each other's records. Like, why wouldn't you want to? Everybody's awesome, It's I love that. It's cool. I mean, I love the fact that there is a standard there, and I know music is subjective, but I mean, if it's the same person heading up the label, using their judgment based on who they want to work with, I feel like there's a consistency there, but also just like a level of excellence. And it's just, I know I can listen to Go Kick Ass 1 or 2, and enjoy it cover to cover,
Right.
Absolutely.
He's vetting it and really considering it with his soul, because he's got a really good soul. So,
and he knows all the things that are around. He knows all the bands that exist in Toronto.
Yeah, he's just a wealth of knowledge. It's funny, and yeah, I feel like we got to stop pumping his tires, because if he is listening, we can't let him know that.
Negative side.
The one thing I will say too is, so I mean, I knew him online basically, like he had been on the show, but just like this, right? So, I played a show at the 102.1 studio, and he showed up, and that dude, he's so tall. He's like Shaq. I was like, who, this is you, like,
Yeah.
And here I am, just like a hobbit, So, yeah, it was like twins, man. It was speaking of 80s movies.
I used to think I was tall.
Yeah. Then you met John.
Then I met John.
I ask the listeners a question every episode. I like to get my guests' take as well. So today's listener question is, what are you looking forward to the most this summer?
Yes. Well, we were hoping to play a lot of festivals and say we could play a lot of festivals and look forward to that. But unfortunately, we didn't get accepted to many festivals. So that's part of the plight of an indie band, is that I just want to be open about that. It kind of sucks to be rejected from a lot of festivals. But we are playing Voodoo Rock Fest, and we've played there for a few years in a row. So looking forward to that. Odessa, Ontario. And otherwise, like Generator Party, we're playing a bunch of cool shows here. And we're playing on, we play on Toronto Island a lot at the Upper Deck Bar. And it's like, in our opinion, one of the best venues in the city. it's just like a view of the lake, but then you're just on this like beautiful patio and you feel like you're in another country. Like such not a Toronto vibe for those people who don't love the Toronto vibe. It's a very laid back, like everyone's just so happy all the time. So we'll be playing there a bunch of times this summer. So very much looking forward to that. And I'll be playing some shows with Serena Ryder, who's like a fairly big Canadian artist.
Yeah.
So So that'll be a good time. And
then we're kind of, you know, in the spirit of what Joan was saying, you know, when things weren't kind of happening here in terms of landing festivals, we ended up kind of lucking out on one in the UK for September. So we are just blindly booking some dates out there, and we managed to lock down a good couple weeks of shows in London and north of, so we'll go out to the UK for a couple weeks, which is the first time the Jane Does will be. Mostly exciting.
Yeah, we've been going down to the States a lot, but that's becoming weirder and weirder, obviously.
Yeah.
And I mean, we've made some great friends down there, and we'll keep going. But yeah, but it'll be good to branch out to the other side.
Yeah, well, that's just, I mean, if you look at it as a, I don't know, silver lining, at least wherever you can, right? Like it's good excuse to try other markets and, you know, go see the world, right? Because it's, you know, as Canadians, like obviously the US is such a huge market and they're just a hop, skip, and a jump away. But I know, like, I just did a fly in LA, and like I was very nervous going through the TSA and all that. But and I mean, you know, it worked out for me, but I've also heard a lot of horror stories, and I think they're valid. I heard actually, and you know, without going too far down the rabbit hole, I guess, but I heard even Propaganda canceled a bunch of the U.S. dates. I think all of them actually. So I don't know. I mean, could be a visa issue, could be more horror stories, but yeah, you know what? Maybe I'll avoid stepping in the shit right now, and I'll just say, Europe would be great. That'd be cool to play Europe.
It'll be great to go over there. You know, yeah, it'll be lovely. Yeah.
So that's a pretty full docket. It seems like you have a lot going on. I know it's always a bummer to kind of get, you know, passed over on festivals and stuff like that, but it seems like you're making the most of it.
We'll always work our asses off however we can. So yeah, we won't stop. But yeah, I just like once in a while, it's like, yeah, we just have to throw in the negativity there, you know? It's like, we all get rejected. Some shit happens and you feel like crap for a few days. You're like, why am I doing this? It's like, right, well, you got to keep going and keep pushing forward. So that's what we do.
Well, exactly. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with pointing it out. Sometimes you just got to get it off your chest, right? Like it's obviously, you know, you're working hard and you're pushing through and all that stuff. But I feel like you would do that whether things are good or things are bad. Like it seems like you're both just workhorses. So.
Yeah. Oh, and then also one other thing that'll be great this summer is we're playing Interstellar Punk Bazaar in Toronto in July, which John is helping to put together, I believe. So we're really looking forward to that.
July 26th.
Yeah, there'll be taxidermists there and everything. So.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's actually my birthday. Maybe I'll jump.
Oh, okay.
That'd
be
cool.
cool.
To come to.
Yeah, and I'm a really boring birthday boy because I mean I haven't had a drink in over 3 years, but you know maybe I'll show up and have a couple Diet Cokes, you know, get a little crazy.
Well, it's daytime, so it's an iced tea kind of time, you know.
Awesome. Is there anyone you want to take this opportunity to give a shout out to?
Yeah, we'll give a shout out to everybody who was on Normalize on that record. So there's Jesse Leibovitz played drums, badass, and Brian Kobayakawa played a lot of crazy synth loops on there. And
Scott Galloway played a little bit of keys as well.
Yeah.
And Andre Wall, who kind of helped springboard us into self-sufficient production land in terms of mixing and producing and all that stuff. But he really did. He mixed that record and just helped with everything that came after.
Yeah, totally. And then also a shout out to Andrea Caswell out in England, who's been our manager for the past while and who was helping to bring us to England. So thanks, Andrea.
Yeah.
Awesome. How can people check out what you're doing online?
I guess the simplest way is to just type in thejoansmith.com for people who enjoy going to old-timey websites. And then you can find all the links to, we're on all, the bullshit. Well, even on the TikTok, as much as I'm personally loath to even log on to it, I'll post something there once in a while. But yeah, more active on Instagram and Facebook, so all the open. And I do write a Substack blog once in a while. So
cool.
If you want to see more like long form musings from my brain,
they're pretty great.
I like to write long form, so there's a pretty good post about like I went through a pretty serious injury on stage in November in the States. I tore my ACL.
Oh,
my knee real bad. Fell off speaker the last note of the last song of our encore. Then I had to go to the emergency room. Tom took me.
Oh, no.
Crazy experience. But there's a nice long blog post about it. So if anybody wants to...
All the details are there.
All the weird details are there, whether they're misremembered or not. The trauma of my brain.
Well, I definitely need to read that because I have questions. I know there's definitely that happened. Well, my singer at the time dislocated his shoulder on stage and we just gunned it for the border because we're like, we're not paying for that. So yeah, poor guy had to, just sit in the van in just agony. But even he was like, I don't remember. It was, I want to say Michigan, somewhere not crazy far, but like far enough to where you wouldn't want to sit in the van for that amount of time holding your shoulder in place while you get back to free healthcareville.
Yep. Yeah. Totally. Well, yeah, I had insurance. So the short story is in the end it was covered, but I got to find out exactly how much US healthcare costs. So,
wow.
It's not great. So yeah, you did the right thing by driving home.
Well, hey, I mean, it wasn't me. So, I mean, it was an easy decision for me to make, but even my singer was like, yeah, I'm not paying for that.
Yeah. Smart move on his part.
And for what it's worth, I love the old timey websites. I think more bands should have them because, my old band was a MySpace band and, that turned out well for everyone. So yeah, kids, check out the old timey websites. We can, dance the Charleston and do all that good stuff.
Sarsaparilla for everyone.
The last thing I do is spin two tunes. First up is Joan Smith and the Jane Does with Normalized, followed by today's double feature preacher artist Blair Sparrow with Hands of Time. Thanks so much for your time. It's been awesome getting to know you.
Likewise, Derek.
You too, Derek.
And to the listeners, thank you so much for your time. Catch you next time.
a hole. Through my eyes you'll see my soul, but it ain't always pretty. The hands of time run slow. When you're really feeling low, time doesn't know pity. It's our only path to home, but we can't make it alone. Better act quickly. I just need a hugging kiss, and I wanna have to feel out this. And I wanna have to feel out this. And I wanna have to feel out this. Just need a hugging kiss. And I wanna have to feel like this. Make everything just better. Hang on every word she spoke. She said, if I lie, will you still believe me? Always fixing everything's broke. Even the richest roads are paved full of needing. The hands of time just flow. When life reaches plateau, the time starts receding. Before we enter the unknown, let's show how much we've grown while we're still breathing. I just need a hugging kiss, then I won't have to feel like this.